Four people are sitting around a table.
See, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend.
Suddenly, a bomb goes off.
Those with loaded guns.
Now take the same scene and tell the audience there is a bomb under that table.
And those who dig.
So the whole emotion of the audience is totally different.
You dig.
Hi. So what'd you think of the intro?
Where'd you get that art from?
I had someone make it.
Okay.
Does it look like you?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Anyway. Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
Been slowly getting over the sadness that is the film
Oh, yeah.
we're about to talk about.
I would like
one hell of a first pick.
I would like, before we get into this,
Really starting this off
fucking
strong.
depressing ass movie, I'd like to explain what's going on with this podcast. So, I started this podcast with Noah. You might know him, right?
Who?
Noah.
Oh, so I'm like backup.
You're the replacement.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn, makes me feel great.
But I started this podcast with Noah honestly, maybe like a year ago, or close to a year ago. And we recorded a few episodes, maybe like 5, and they weren't great. He was not a great co-host. He was always in a pissy mood and just never wanted to do it. It felt like I was forcing him to do it. But I've always wanted
Wait, I'm not forced to do this?
Listen, if you feel obligated, if you want to leave, that's your choice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those. As many of your videos as I watch, I have not seen a single one. Or maybe I have, but I don't remember. What movies were you forced to watch together?
The Batman.
Okay.
And we did a few episodes of Moon Knight. So we also
Never
did
heard
like
of that.
TV shows.
Okay.
But yeah, I started it with him and it just died. We also did audio only, so we never did a video. But in this case, I guess we could have done just audio, but I like doing the video because I like looking at you.
Yep. I had to stare at your face for a whole hour.
Yeah, but I've always wanted to do this podcast where I watch movies and then talk about the movies. But it's difficult finding the right person. And you're always the right person for me.
And I actually enjoy watching movies.
Yeah. So
Not all the ones you recommend. I can think of at least one movie that you've made me watch that I hated, but
yeah.
This one was a good choice.
So explain how we chose this movie.
Okay. So we came to the decision of this movie based on a couple of factors. Starting off with a coin flip. We went onto Google. We said, Google, flip me a coin. He picked heads. I picked tails. And landed on heads. So he got to pick the first movie. And then at the end of this episode, well, no, not at the end of this episode, but on the next episode of the podcast, I will have picked that movie. So he's like, okay, we need to find a movie we can both watch. And I said, okay. And then he brought me over to an archaic stack of something some people don't even understand what they are anymore, but they're DVDs. And I was like, oh my goodness, you grandpa, why do you still have DVDs? And he's like, because I'm weird. And he said, pick any one of the DVDs from this top stack of the shelf. And he kind of gave me some options about what he was thinking. And then he pointed out Schindler's List, which is the movie we watched. And I said, you know what? I've never seen that. And I have wanted to see it for a little bit. So that is how we came to the decision of watching Schindler's List. End of story.
End of story. Okay. I honestly thought, like, I knew Schindler's List wasn't going to be a fucking jolly movie, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Like, it's amazing, but it's just depressing.
It's a really good
fuck.
film, just on a sad subject. So the story, while really good, is also really sad, and it's well done. It's really well done.
Honestly, if I were to put this I in a category, I'm pretty sure the original the genre is drama, but I would put this in the horror category.
Really?
This is a horror movie to me.
This, on Wikipedia, because I have it pulled up, is categorized as a epic historical drama.
Epic. Epic. Yeah, no. The Schindler's List to me seemed like a horror documentary. Like, it honestly didn't even seem like a movie to me. It seemed more like a documentary.
It was brutal to watch some of those scenes where they were killing people, and we'll get more into that. I have a list of scenes that I thought were interesting, or at least somewhat thought-provoking. But I don't think it was done to be gruesome. Well, I'll take that back. It was done to be gruesome, but it wasn't done for no reason. It was done to show what people had to go through.
I think the way that they filmed this entire movie was very honest. Like, watching it, I just felt like this is the truth that was happening. And it made me feel sad, and it made me give up on humanity. It
Oh, okay.
like, human beings are just awful, and the world is a terrible place. That was what I was thinking. Like, this also the absolute first feeling I had was I never want to visit Germany ever. But then, after watching the movie, that thought left my mind because I realized it was a long time ago. They're not like this anymore. So,
I mean, it was only 80 years ago.
oh my God. So, also, I forgot to take notes. I was going to watch this movie and take my notes.
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
Good thing I took notes.
But I do remember a lot about this movie. So
Good, because I'm going to bring up some scenes, and hopefully you can kind of remember them so we can describe them a little bit better.
yeah, go ahead. What's first on your list?
What do you... Okay, I think we'll kind of go through the movie, and because they're in order of like when I was watching it. Going into this movie with absolutely no context of who Schindler was or who any of the characters in this movie was, I was a little confused. The first scene of the movie is Schindler going into Poland. And you don't know this at the time, but he's apparently poor and he wants to start a business up in Poland. But you don't know this. So you just assume he's kind of like a little fancy, a little rich, because he's going to this nice party in the very first scene. He's spending a ton of money.
I didn't presume that he was poor at all.
Yeah, well, I think he was. And because later in the movie they talk about how he'd failed at a bunch of businesses and that he moved to Poland to make this business work. So not necessarily poor, but not super successful. And I think the first scene is him basically forming the connections that are going to put him in high places of power throughout the rest of the movie. So he's meeting with members of the SS Army and getting to know them and becoming friends that way. Because and I'll talk about this more later, I don't know if he started out with great intentions, but I think those kind of formed along his journey as he was going through his business. So I don't think he started that business with good intentions. And I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the actual history of it.
I think
But it
his
just seemed like
intentions,
he wanted to make money, and he needed friends in high places to make as much money as possible.
I think his intentions were selfish. He was only
Yes.
looking
And
out for himself.
In the beginning, I agree.
Yeah.
As the movie evolves, I think he does as well. And so that's kind of the first scene. And as the movie ramps up, it kind of jumps through history kind of fast, going from like the Jewish people in Poland are still free. And to the next scene that I wrote down was when the Jewish people started to get moved to the ghettos. And you see a Jewish family kicked out of their house and moved to the ghetto. And you see Schindler move into the nice house that this rich Jewish family got kicked out of. And when they're filming it, the entire time they're swapping back and forth between the new house that Schindler has and the terrible living conditions that the Jewish family was forced into in the ghetto. And I think it's to kind of like really
like
exaggerate the difference between the living conditions and how terrible.
It was like
the
a
living conditions in the
mirroring
ghetto were.
perspective, right?
Yeah, I thought this scene was creative, how they showed the difference between the two different living conditions.
Oh yeah.
Next scene I thought was interesting. I wrote down saving Jews through his business. Now, this was still fairly early on in the movie before they got moved to the work camp. The Jews got moved to the work camp, and I still don't think that Schindler had the best intentions when he was doing this. I think the only reason, I think it was just, it was good for him, but and it was also good for the Jews, but I don't think he cared that it was good for the Jews. He was just caring that it was saving him money. So what he would do is he would hire Jews for like, I don't know what the thing was, like $5 a day, right? Instead of hiring Polish workers for $7 a day. But at the same time, it also put the Jews that worked in his new coming factory on a list saying that they were important to the war effort, which put them at like some sort of a higher standing so that they wouldn't just be killed. And at least they were making money, and they got to leave the ghetto to like trade items and stuff when they went to go work at his job.
And Stern, I think it was
the accountant.
Yeah, his accountant. He knew this, and he was definitely taking advantage of this factor. Since he was like put in charge of hiring Jews, he was definitely manipulating this loophole. And I mean, to his credit, it was very smart to save people. Like he even forged fake documents to save Jews, and like that one scene comes to my mind when he was making a document for somebody and like crumpling it up and like pouring coffee on it and making it look old because the dude was like over 50 or something.
Yeah, he was a history and language arts teacher, and he was deemed to not be an essential worker.
Yeah.
So the accountant, was it Stern?
Yeah.
Stern forged a document and he started working at the factory, which probably saved his life.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next note I have is making money from people he met in the beginning of the movie. And you see this, like the first scene in the movie doesn't make a ton of sense until this scene. And then this scene is where he's remembered all the contacts and high-ranking people he's made in the beginning of the movie, and he sends them all a gift basket with a bunch of nice German like food, cigarettes, like cheese, wine, stuff like that.
Those
And
were his products, right? That's like
no,
no.
they were just things that he had bought to like spread awareness of his company. That way, because like the way the military contracts work is they usually go to like whoever can fit the need of what's needed for the cheapest price. So he's like, okay, as war is ramping up, they're going to start needing these pots and pans that I'm producing. So if I send them a nice gift basket, then maybe they'll remember me and pick my contract over the rest. So I'll actually start making money.
Got it.
So that was the next scene. And I thought that was, I don't know, that's when things kind of started clicking more. I was like still kind of confused from the first scene of the movie. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, okay, this is making sense. So he's making contacts so that he can promote his business.
The whole time, like especially in the opening scene, like at the dinner party, and he's like making friends. He is very charismatic. He is extremely charming, and he knows how to talk to people. And
he's so charming.
and
this
definitely
plays into his character a little bit, because my next note I think is the kind of a huge point of the story. My next note is Schindler a good person?
I feel like,
and
like
for some things, yes, but like throughout, I would say 90% of this movie, he is constantly cheating on his wife.
oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
ooh. Like ultimately, he's a good person because yes, he's a Nazi and he's using Jews, but he doesn't, like, even when I wanted to call him the main villain, when the main villain is introduced, he even like tries to convince him to not kill people, like to forgive people. So like I do want to say, like, deep down he's good, but he's definitely like carried by this selfishness and almost like, I don't want to say greed, but something close to it. You know?
He is carried by greed. The whole for like good 80% of the movie, and I don't think he realizes the good he's done until close to the very end.
Yeah. But that scene with when his wife came to knock on his door and some other bitch answered, that was kind of funny.
So my what made me write down as Schindler a good person was the scene where the one-armed man comes into the room to thank him for hiring him, and then he's nice to the one-armed man, but as soon as the one-armed man leaves, he talks to his accountant / secretary dude, and he's like, listen, you can't do that again. This is ridiculous. You hired a one-armed person. How is he an essential person?
I think that's when he finally started realizing what, like, I feel like he knew what Stern was doing, but that's when he like really seen what Stern was doing and how dangerous it could be. But yeah, he during that whole interaction where that one-armed man was like thanking him, Schindler was just being a dick the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I thought that I thought that was like the big question for the movie. I like that's what I sat through most of the movie trying to figure out or decide is Schindler actually a good person or not? And let's see. I wrote that note in the wrong place. The next note I have is a little bit later in the movie. It started happening at the part of the movie where where it actually gets brutal and they start doing the evacuation of the ghetto and to move them into the work camp. And the note that I wrote, because I just thought it was something crazy, was that the Jewish people, instead of letting the Nazis take away all their prized possessions and small things, they would take the jewels and put them into bread and then eat the jewels so that they couldn't be confiscated.
When that was happening, I was really confused. Because at first, this family had like a little secret hiding spot in the wall. They opened it up and like took out this little tin, and the first thought I had was like they're suicide pills. They're gonna kill themselves before the Nazis can kill them. And then they were like diamonds and shit. I was really confused. And they started putting it into bread, and I was even more confused. But why would you do that? Like, I understand that they're probably like family, heirlooms and stuff, but like it's just jewelry. Why would you eat it? Like they're trying to like prevent the Nazis from getting it. I feel like they're saying, if I can't have it, fucking nobody's gonna have them. Or like, do you think they were trying to like shit them out later to keep them, or what do you think?
Probably. It doesn't show that, but yeah. And on your mention of the whole suicide pill thing, that does happen. And like a couple scenes later, when they show the hospital people,
dude,
because the Nazis were gonna as soon as the Nazis broke into the hospital, they shoot everyone in the hospital beds. But the people in the hospital beds are already dead because the hospital attendants knew what was going to happen.
Yeah,
and they fed everyone poison so that they didn't have to get shot.
When is that in one of your notes? But for later on,
What is
the hospital scene?
No, that's like a couple scenes after. I wasn't even in my notes. You just made me remember.
During the hospital scene, I really thought that the doctor and the nurse were going to be killed right after, because
I thought so too.
Yeah, I was like, they're fucked for sure. But surprisingly, they lived. They were probably Nazis. I don't think
they were not Nazis. They were Jewish people.
You think really? You think the doctor was a Jew?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Before I move on to the rest of my notes, in this whole process of, because this is like 30 minutes, it's probably closer to 30, 40 minutes of the movie of them evacuating the ghetto. There's a scene that contains one of two uses of color in the whole movie.
Yes.
And it's Schindler is standing up on a hill out of his estate overlooking the Jewish ghetto because he lives nearby. And as he's watching the Jewish ghetto be evacuated and people killed on the street and people getting like bunched up into trucks, he sees a girl in a red coat, a small girl, maybe like 4 or 5, in a red coat, walking down the street looking for her parents. And you do not see this girl until later in the movie. So I just wanted to bring that up because when I bring up the red girl again, it's not going to make sense if I don't have any context from this previous scene. So and it's the only thing that is colored in this scene is the girl's red coat. So it's the whole movie is in black and white, and this girl's red coat is red.
The first time that they show this girl and her red coat, I think that this is the first moment when Schindler realizes the humanity in what is really happening, and that's why it's colored to stand out so much. I think he's realizing that this is some bad shit that's going on. Like he's like out of all the black and white terribleness that's happening, he sees that one innocent little girl, and he sees that like it's fucked up what's happening. And then later on, I have a different opinion.
Okay. And then next note is when it's like the first real day that the Jews are in this work camp. And they're all kind of lined up and they're told to get to work. And it's kind of sad to see, but you see the Jews that are lined up, they make a comment saying, "The worst is behind us. We are workers. We're important to them now. We can just work." And that is definitely not the case, because one of the first scenes after they're done lined up and they start working is the SS leader that's in charge of this work camp is sitting at his estate on the balcony with a sniper rifle shooting people that are taking breaks with a sniper rifle from just his house. It's just killing people because they are not working. And this guy, I would say, is the main antagonist in the movie, and he's definitely working against the Jews, and he's not taking a whole lot of Schindler's advice later in the movie.
I think he actually enjoys his job.
I think it's from the movie, it seems like he very much enjoys his job.
Yeah, because there's like a difference from like taking orders and like taking pride and in actually enjoying what you're doing. And he definitely, I think, enjoys what he's doing.
My next note I thought was, when I saw this, I was like, that's crazy, is a few scenes before the scene, you see like a bunch of Jewish workers are made to dig up like an old Jewish cemetery that's in the city. And at the time I was thinking, okay, that's pretty messed up, like defacing the dead. That's obviously not cool. But then a few scenes later, you see that those gravestones have now been laid on the ground and used as a road into the concentration camp.
Yeah.
And I like the symbolism behind that is even more messed up than my original thought, because not only did they deface these dead people's graves, they're now saying like your gravestones, your past life was useless, and we're now going to use it as a road, with like kind of a double entendre that these Jewish people now have to walk on this road and out of camp every day. And like it seems like it's like a road of death type thing.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah. It is. I thought that was messed up.
It's also kind of like cheap for the war effort, because they could just like make a actual road, but that would be too expensive. They'll just use
save
the
money
shit
just to use the gravestones.
And it's penny pinching, you know.
It's degrading.
It's
Do you remember the hinge scene?
Yes, that was fucking
that's my next
tough to watch.
That's my next one. So you can talk about the hinge scene.
So there's this scene where the main antagonist, he walks into this factory, part of the labor camp, and this dude is making hinges, and he's tested to see how quickly he can make a hinge, and he makes a hinge in, what was it, about like a minute?
Really
And-
fast.
And then they confront him and they ask him why, if you can make this hinge so fast, why is your pile so small if you've been working since like 6 a.m. or whatever? And they take him out to the back, and they're about to execute him. They have him on his knees. They're about to kill him because he was working slowly and had a small pile of hinges. And every moment, every chance these officers get to fucking shoot him in the head, the guns jam. They're not working. And this man has luck fucking coursing through his fucking body. This man is so lucky. Every time. They probably try to shoot him, like, I want to say like maybe 10 times, maybe.
Definitely more. I'd say it's probably closer to 20.
And they used more than one gun. The main officer was using his gun. It kept getting stuck. They used a different gun. That one wouldn't shoot either. And the main officer got so fed up, he fucking hit him in the head and he got back to work. And
Yeah, let him live. And then people see this happen, and they let Stern know that this is happening. And then that man got moved to Schindler's factory, because during this whole time, the only people allowed to leave the work camp are people working at Schindler's factory. And obviously Schindler has way better working conditions. Even though they're not great, it's way better than like possibly getting shot for not doing something. So that guy did get saved at the end, which was really lucky.
It's crazy to think that, like, that's one person throughout I don't know how many people were killed. I think it was millions, right? Millions of Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Like during the whole Holocaust. And that's just one instance of people being lucky. And I can't imagine how many other, I mean, there weren't many people that were lucky, but there were some that were lucky, and it's just crazy. And it's depressing, and it makes me angry.
Let's see. So at this point in the movie, I think Schindler is starting to realize that what he's doing is probably saving the lives of a lot of people. And while he's not fully bought in on this idea, I think he does just start hiring people to kind of save them. And I wrote a note of, will being good come back to haunt Schindler? Because I was thinking, okay, well, these people, these other Nazis that he's close with, obviously have to catch on sooner or later. Like, they have to kind of realize what he's doing. And, like, they're going to be like, oh, you're a traitor. You've been trying to save all these people. And that's what came to mind for me. And at that point, the question of the movie switched from, like, is he good or not, to, like, realizing that, yeah, he's kind of good, or at least he's a lot better than what the other people are. And will being a good person come back to haunt Schindler personally? So that was kind of like a tone shift in the movie.
There was one scene for me that did change my opinion about him, and it was when Oskar Schindler is sitting at a railroad with some Nazis and the main antagonist, and it's a hot day, and these Jews are loaded up in the trains, and Oskar pretends that it'll be funny to spray them down with water to make it, seem like he's being cruel to the Jews, when he's actually cooling them down and, like, having them drink some of that water. And the whole time, the Nazis are thinking, like, oh, this guy is just, another cruel person, and he just thinks it's funny.
Yep.
and the Nazis are
He's
enjoying
actually
it.
trying to help.
Yeah, and I mean that's got to take some, like, even though he is a Nazi, because he reveals at the end of the movie he's a member of the Nazi party. Even though he is like technically one of them, it still takes a lot of courage to do something like that, and like he's really risking himself because anybody could question him and you know be like, are
And
you
right
actually
after
trying to
that
make him
scene
uncomfortable?
is where he gets arrested. And at first I was like, okay, they finally caught on. Being good is coming back on him, and he's gonna get arrested. I thought he was gonna get arrested because the leader of the Nazi work camp kind of looked at him funny when he was spraying the people with water. Like I was like, oh, okay, he finally caught on and realized that Schindler's trying to do good. But that's actually not why he was arrested. He was arrested because earlier in the movie, when he was at a party, he kissed a Jewish woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he got set free. Schindler got set free because he made friends in high places in the Nazi party, and they could vouch for him because they still thought that, that he wasn't trying to help Jewish people and that he didn't like Jewish people and stuff like that. So they vouched for him, and he was released with no punishment.
I think that still shows that even though he's like not ultimately good, he still doesn't care about the difference in people. How Nazis say like Jewish people like have these weird shaped heads and like they're so distinct and they're like rats and rodents. He still sees like a woman as a woman and doesn't care what anyone thinks. Like he'll kiss a woman, and he did it. He kissed that chick in front of a
lot of
fucking
people.
crowd of Nazis, and he didn't give a fuck. So that takes some balls, and honestly, it's pretty fucking baller.
Let's see. I have another note. I wrote about the fire hoses. This note is before that. Another scene I thought was interesting where he, before the fire hose scene, where he was trying to make the lives easier for the Jews, is he had like a one-on-one personal discussion with the leader of the Nazi camp about what it meant to be in power. And he said, power isn't like the ability to kill anyone when you want. It's the ability to show mercy when you want to. And the next day, the Nazi leader, or not the Nazi, the leader of the camp, I think he tried 3 times to show mercy. Mm-hmm. And on the 3rd time, he's like, you know what? I hate this. I'm not showing mercy. And the person he just showed mercy to, he kills him. And it's a boy. It's like a 13-year-old boy who could not clean the stains out of his bathtub.
I think when Oscar was telling him that, he was really just trying to save other people's lives, and
yeah, he was.
Because
he was trying to save the lives of Jewish people.
Because this person that he was talking to, the leader of the camp, the main antagonist, like, there's no way Oscar is gonna boss him around, tell him what to do. So that was like one attempt to like control him,
and it did not work. It failed.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another interesting thing. This was right before they went on the trains, and they were getting separated at the work camp. Basically, they said, "Okay, we're shipping a ton of you away to make room for new people coming in. So we're going to ship all the people that are unfit to work." So they make everyone strip down naked and like so they can examine them to see if they're healthy or not. And right before this happens, you see a bunch of the women bite their fingers so that they can take the blood coming out of their fingers and smear it on their cheeks to make it appear like they have rosy cheeks and that they're healthy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was also kind of a crazy scene because it one shows they know what's going to happen, and like the whole movie shows like the crazy lengths that people were going to try to survive in like a lawless time.
Yeah. Dude, this whole movie is just depressing. Everything you're going to say, I'm going to say, yeah, that's depressing.
Yeah. There's another thing that I also found extremely depressing and kind of, it was just messed up. It was a different train scene where they were shipping people away on trains. And they said, okay, we're going to ship you to a different work camp. You can leave your luggage here, write your name, and like what your luggage is on your luggage, and it will come on the next train after you. So they put all these people on a train and send them away. And then they take their luggage and they empty it and sort through it all. But at the same time, the people that they're making sort through all these people that are going away to die, they're making other Jewish people sort through their clothes so that the Nazis can have their clothes, their valuables, their shoes, their glasses, and they're stacking it in huge piles. And I was like, that's so messed up that you're making these other Jews who definitely know what's going on sort through other Jews that are going away to die.
The thing about that scene that was visually the most disturbing was when the Nazi dropped a pile of teeth with silver fillings that I don't know how they got those teeth. Either, dude, they had to fucking rip them out of people's faces, right?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't covered in blood, but that's the only thing I can think of. Like, I don't think people are just going to have, teeth with silver fillings, like, as something to keep with them. But that I did not like at all.
Okay, the next note I have is the next scene where you see the girl in red again. So, Christian, please describe this scene.
She's dead. Her dead body is still in the coat, and she's like on a wheelbarrow, and Oskar sees. He doesn't see. Does he see her?
He does.
On the wheelbarrow.
He's there.
But yeah, she's dead. Now what do you want me to say? She's dead. Yeah.
Let me paint the picture a little bit.
Okay. Sorry, I don't completely
They're
remember. I just remember her
emptying
being
the
dead.
camp completely at this point to get rid of all the people there and either move the lucky few to Schindler's factory or the unlucky few to Auschwitz. And what they do is they make all the Jewish people that are still alive dig up the dead Jewish people that they buried out in the forest and put them in a big pile so that they can burn them. And the scene where Oskar sees this red girl again is her dead body being basically dragged away on a wheelbarrow to be put in this burn pit.
I think this girl is important because it shows two pivotal moments in Oskar Schindler's thinking. The first time he sees this girl, he realizes that this isn't right. And the second time he sees this girl, that's when he makes the complete switch from the selfish business person that he is to somebody who's just going to save any human life. That's what I thought.
Yep. And during this scene and shortly after is when Schindler decides, I'm going to try to save as many Jews as possible from this camp. And instead of sending them to Auschwitz, I'll take as many as I can to the factory with me, and he pays for them. He basically pays a price per head that he's taking to the factory. And while after they're done drafting up this list, which is Schindler's List, he has a drink with his account. What's his name? Stern. He has a drink with Stern. And I thought this was kind of an important moment because the entire movie, Oskar has offered drinks to Stern probably like 10 times. And Stern has declined it every single time. Partially because I don't think Stern liked Oskar. But at this point, Stern realizes, okay, Oscar's actually here to help us, not just make money at this point. He's spending tons of money per person just to save us. And he says, this is probably my last chance to have a drink with you, and I will have a drink with you. And he has a drink with Oskar Schindler. And I thought that was an important part.
That was the first tear that I shed when... Because during the whole movie, Oscar's trying to share a drink with Stern. And I didn't think that the first drink they'll share was probably going to be Stern's last drink that he'll share with Oskar. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But yeah.
So at this point in the movie, the people that are lucky enough to be on Schindler's List are separated into two trains, a male train and a female train. And Oskar, the male train leaves first, and Oskar meets the people, the males that are on this train, and says, okay, you've arrived at my factory. There's warm food and bread waiting for you. You can go inside and eat it, and the female train will be here soon. And then it cuts to a scene of the female train not pulling up to Oscar's factory. It's pulling up to Auschwitz. And my note says, oops, the train went to Auschwitz. And
Oops.
The reason I wrote it like that was because that came out of left field. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is a terrible thing. This is like one of the worst things that could have happened at this moment.
How people scream at their TV when they watch like sporting events. I was fucking furious. I was like, no, bring it back. I was pissed. It was bad.
And I was like, damn, all these people, half the people he was going to save are going to die. And they show a scene where they're leading everyone into the showers.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yes.
You're like, damn, all these people that he was going to save are going to die.
All those people were paid for. Oskar saved them, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So before these women were led into the showers, there's a scene right before it where they're sitting in the barracks. This group of women, they're sitting in the barracks, and this lady, she's telling these people a story of someone else going into the showers, and she's describing this. She's saying, like, before they put you in, they cut your hair, they make you take your clothes off, they give you soap to make you think you're gonna take a shower. So she's telling everybody about this fucking horror story, and then when it happens to them, they know what's gonna happen. And when I was watching it, I was pissing myself. I was like, no, fuck no, they know, because I knew that they knew, and it was just tough to watch. And I was really confused when the shower started going, and it was just water.
It was just water. They did not die.
So they just got a bath. They got rinsed off.
They got rinsed off, and they were so happy. And then in the next scene, Oscar comes down there and says, "You made a major mistake. I'm taking all my people back," and he does. So
Did you notice
he does end up saving a good portion of the people? I don't think he saves every person that was on that train, but he saved a good portion of them.
And he still had to bribe someone to get them back. So it still cost him more.
It cost them more money.
And this was one of, I think it was 3 like badass moments that I remember Schindler having. When first badass moment I thought was when the men were coming on the train and he's listening to this fucking Nazi just blabber at him, and he just walks away like, I'm not fucking listening to you. And he gets on the platform, tells the fucking dude to get off, and he just takes charge. Very badass. And there was another time when Stern got put onto a train that was gonna go to a labor camp, and Oscar's at this train platform. He's looking for Stern, and he finds an officer. He has a clipboard with lists of names, and he says, I have someone on this train who's not supposed to be here. And the officer's like, yeah, his name's here. And this officer does not want to help Oscar. He's like, we got to take him. Like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And Oscar takes down his name. And the guy goes to another officer. The other officer's like, yeah, like, we can't do it. Oscar takes down his name too. And he tells him, like, all right, by the morning, you guys are going to be shipped off somewhere else. And dude, like a fucking switch, they start helping him. They find the dude. They get him off. That was fucking bad ass. I love that because he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I'm here for business, and this is my business. This is what I'm here for, and I'm gonna get it. I'm taking it, and I love it. I love it.
So let's see. He gets as many people as he can to his factory, and then it kind of fast forwards in time again to the end of the war. And the war at this day, the war officially ended, and he has his big speech with the Nazi officers that are at his work facility, or not his work, I shouldn't call it, that are at his factory, and the Jews that are at his factory. And he says, basically, like, at this point, you guys are all free. And I'm going to hang out with you for a little bit, but I have to run because as a member of the Nazi party, I'm going to be that used forced labor, right, in his factory. They're going to come looking for me, and I'm going to be prosecuted. And then he turns to the German soldiers that are working at his factory, and he says, I know you've been given orders to kill every Jewish person here. And he said, you can do that, or you can leave with your dignity and go home men that are not murderers, which they probably killed people already, but maybe less murdery men. And all the Nazis do leave. They don't go on a killing spree. And then basically the Jews and Oscar celebrate for a little bit until he has to go. And then came the first scene that made me cry. Because I did not cry until the very end of this movie. And it was the scene where Oscar is given a ring. This ring was, I'm assuming it was made out of gold. It was taken from one of the Jewish men's mouths that worked at the factory. They took it out of his mouth. They pulled it out without Oscar knowing. And they melted it down to a ring. And they inscribed some religious text on the ring. And before Oscar left to leave, they said, we wanted to give you this ring and this note saying that basically if you get captured, that you're a good person. And it was signed by every person at the factory. And then they gave him a ring from this dude's mouth. And It just made me tear up. It was so sad that I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It was just very sad.
Yeah. When, I mean, they gave him the ring, and then he started breaking down and saying that he could have done more after saving.
Yeah,
I think it was like
he's
nearly
saying he wished he could
2,000
have done
people.
more. He saved like 1,000 people, and he said, I could have saved just a few more. If I sold this car, I could have saved 5 more people. If I sold my pin that I'm wearing, I could have saved 2 more people, or at least 1 more person. And he just breaks down crying.
And he wasn't content with himself.
Yeah, he was not happy that he only saved 1,000 people, which is a ton. And then he leaves, and the next morning a Russian finds the Jewish people and says, you're free. And then it shows a bunch of the Jewish people walking through a field, basically to the town, saying that they're free. And then it cuts to the people from the story that are still alive at the time of the movie. That at the time that the movie was filmed, the same people that the characters portrayed walking through that same field. And then it went to a scene with Oskar Schindler's real life grave and the real life Jews that were still alive that he saved, putting rocks on his grave. And that scene also made me cry.
I think one of the uses of color and the absence of color in this movie really helps just the entire movie, because if this movie was filmed in color, I think it would be too graphic. But the fact that it's all filmed in black and white, it makes it just the slightest bit easier to watch, because it doesn't, like, not everybody, almost everybody lives seeing in color. And when you watch something that's in black and white, there's a slight dissociation between that and like reality. And at the end, when they go from the black and white crowd of people in the field and it switches to color, showing the real people, that was very, very nice. And when all the real survivors that Oscar saved, when they're walking to his grave and putting a rock there, it took me a second to realize, but the survivors are walking to his grave alongside the actors that are portraying them. And because there was Ben Kingsley, the guy who plays Stern, he was walking alongside Stern's wife, because I think Stern died
of old age.
Yeah.
He didn't die during the movie. He died after.
Yeah. The absolute last nail in the coffin for me was right when all the survivors were putting a stone on Oscar's grave, and the last stone to be placed was by Liam Neeson. And they don't show him, like they show him from far away, but there's no close up of Liam Neeson, but you can tell from the shadow that it's Liam Neeson, and that fucking hurt a lot watching that. And it's just so respectful, and it's so sad. But
Yeah.
it's very classy. It's very nice the way that they are respecting Oskar Schindler in that way, and I loved that respect that they paid.
Yeah, I would end off with saying that this movie is good. If you haven't seen it, you probably should watch it. 2, it's very real. It doesn't really hold back. It's graphic, and you're gonna not like a majority of the things that you see on the screen. And I would also say, lastly, even though it is graphic, I would say it's very respectfully made.
Yeah.
It's not like the movie it doesn't give off a sense that it was made to make money. Even though they made money off of it, I don't think that was necessarily the point. So, or at least that's not the point that comes across in the movie. So if that was the point, good job to the director. Because
So if you
it doesn't seem like it at all.
If you were to give this movie a rating out of 10, what would your score be?
Probably an 8. 8.
I would
8,
also say
8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm right there. Maybe closer to a 9 because it's like it's such a good movie, but it's like the movie's not about something that's good, but the movie itself is good.
Yeah.
And oh god, I wouldn't recommend watching this if you want to be happy. If you want to be torn down and depressed and lose faith in humanity, yeah, watch it.
I was watching this partially with Kira, and Kira had to stop watching. She said, I'm not going to watch any more of this.
The special effects in this movie, there are very few, but a lot of the violence shown looked very real, and I doubt that they used computer effects to make any part of this movie. I think everything was in camera. I mean, that's only that's my guess. But the way that people die in this movie, because unfortunately, I've seen videos on the internet of actual people being murdered, and watching this movie and comparing that to what it looks like when like actual people are killed, the movie did a very good job at showing that. Like there's like a certain way that a body falls after it's been shot in the head, and the movie, I think there's like one moment where it wasn't completely convincing, but every death is extremely convincing, and so the special effects were very good. Anything to add?
No, I covered my whole list of notes.
Well, that that was the Schindler's List. Yay.
Yep.
What a fucking first choice.
Yeah, great choice for your first film.
I'm
Good job. Hopefully the next one you pick is a little less depressing.
I'm glad I watched it. I don't regret watching it, but I also kind of wish I maybe didn't, but it was like, I feel like it was a necessary movie to watch. I feel like there are very few movies that everyone should watch. I think Schindler's List is 100% a movie that everybody should watch at some point. That and like Star Wars.
Yeah. on the same level. Yep. So correct there. Okay. How do you want to end this podcast?
Let's end this episode by choosing the next movie for the next episode. No, you don't want to do that?
No.
So how are we going to do it?
I'm going to pick it later.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well then, I'm going to look for the outro. This might instantly start playing, but uh-oh.
Say hello to my little friend.
To infinity and beyond.